Gauntlet. This Vekoma SLC rides a bit different than the others that I've been on, but it is a beloved thrill coaster that appeals to thrill seekers and families at Magic Springs. But just how good is it? Find out in this review. Vekoma debuted their inverted coaster in 1994 with Condor at Wallaby Holland to compete with B&M's inverted coaster that debuted as Batman the Ride in 1992. This was seen as a cheaper option for parks wanting an inverted coaster, though SLCs have been known to be very rough by many coaster enthusiasts. The original train for these coasters featured padding by one's head, but can be very restricted, and as you will bounce around on these coasters, these can make it very easy for you to bang your head. I've had good luck with Vortex at Siam Amazing Park with just leaning forwards to avoid discomfort with these restraints, but I can see why this could be a big issue for a lot of guests. Gauntlet has slightly newer restraints, so this isn't a big issue, but they're still hard over the shoulder restraints, and not vest restraints, as some discomfort can occur. Magic Springs got Gauntlet in 2004 when Jaslyn ordered the standard 689 meter SLC layout, which is the most common version of an SLC, but the sale fell through and expanding Magic Springs swooped in to pick up this thrill coaster. Magic Springs itself is a neat family amusement and water park in Hot Springs, Arkansas. This park is relatively isolated from other major parks, but it is on the way if one is driving from Texas to parks further in Missouri or onwards to Ohio. The park itself has a few thrill rides, 4 roller coasters, and a collection of kiddie and family rides. With a location on a hill and around a lake, the park looks pretty nice, though with confusing paths and some ride closures, the amusement side does feel like there was not a cohesive plan when it comes to theming and appearance. This is apparent with Gauntlet, because even though you can really see it from most of the amusement side as it's sticking out of the trees, the path next to Plummet Summit to get back to Gauntlet was not easy for me to find, as I missed it when I was trying to find it. I ended up over by Hawk and the log flume, which is really a dead end. Having a long path to an isolated coaster seems strange, but it should help keep the line down as this coaster was fairly popular. Still, no more than a station wait on the slow weekday that I visited, but I imagine it can build up a longer line on busier days. Operations on this coaster were nice. Although it just runs with one train, the operators would let you stay on to ride again if the line was short enough, and it was easy enough to run around and get back in line if you really had to. I got right back on the next train the few times that I did this. The cool thing with this coaster that I have not experienced on a different roller coaster is that the attendants would tell guests that the restraint tightness was personal preference. So as long as you cleared the verify, you could ride with them as loose as you'd like. Given their hard nature, I'm not sure how much this helps the overall coaster, but I did ride with a loose restraint on all of my rides, since why the heck not? As for smoothness, this coaster was not smooth. At all. In fact, I felt like it was a giant jerk fest as I knocked around continuously throughout the entire experience. I don't actually mind roughness like this, so it wasn't a terrible experience, but I can easily see this coaster being too rough for many guests. Most of my rides were towards the back as people tended to just naturally front load, so unlike other SLCs, I did not get a front row ride as I didn't want to wait an extra cycle for it. Towards the front seemed to offer more in terms of forces and less overall jerking, if you'd prefer a slightly smoother ride. After going up the lift hill, which is always freaky on these as there is nothing between you as you climb up, The first curve drop is solid, or should be, but that jerking did seem to dull this a little bit on most of my rides, as it was a lot less than other SLCs that I've been on. The longer straightaway at the bottom also helps you feel the forces and jerks of this ride. Then, Gauntlet enters the rollover, which is a fine inversion, giving a bit more character than a Cobra roll, but still nothing too special. And the jerking makes it not as pronounced as maybe it could be. This is followed by a wave turn, which did not hit because of the jerking. These have potential to be my favorite SLC element, but this one was just okay. The Sidewinder is my favorite inversion on SLCs, as it offers a nice bit of float over the top, and just a pretty fun element. But here it's just more of that jerking, so you can't really tell what the forces are. The following helix offers some forces while giving riders more jerks before 2 consecutive inline twists. The whip in these is normally a bit much for me, but the jerking does dull the intensity, which is a welcomed change. Then you have a few turns into the brake run, but don't let your guard down, as there can be a few strong jerks in this section, and the brakes can ram you into your restraint. Overall, how good is Gauntlet? If you haven't noticed, I found this coaster rather jerky, but that still makes it a fun SLC, at least for me, as I really don't mind the character. The individual elements are less pronounced, but for some, like the inline twists, that's a good thing, whereas less on the drop and the wave turn is a bit unfortunate. Still, I enjoy the power and force of this ride. I do rank Gauntlet below other SLCs that I've been on, as Professor Screamer's Skywinder is sometimes smoother, and I can enjoy the individual elements. Vortex has better individual elements for sure, but that final helix saps a lot out of me, and its overall ranking. I place Gauntlet right above Prairie Screamer at Prairie Playland, which has 2 solid drops and an overall fun layout. I place Gauntlet right below Diamondback at Frontier City. This often closed coaster is unique, offering a good pop of backwards airtime while just being something special. Its intensity though can get to me with multiple re-rides. What is your experience on Gauntlet been? How do you like to ride with your restraints? Does this ride jerk you around as much as I feel like it does? Let me know. And as always, Cup Crap.